Before we begin, I want you to imagine something for a moment. Imagine waking up tomorrow and realize that you can't feel love anymore. You don't feel love for your family, your friends, your pets, or even the things that usually makes you happy. You might still see beautiful things around you. The sun would still rise in the morning, music would still play, people would still smile, laugh, and talk with each other. But somehow, none of those things would make you feel anything. It would feel strange, almost like watching life happen from far away. That is exactly the idea explored in the poem, And If the Heart Cannot Love, written by Filipino poet Jose Garcia Villa. In this poem, the poet imagines what happens when a heart loses its ability to love. Jose Garcia Villa is one of the most well-known Filipino poets. He became famous for writing poems that are short but very deep in meaning. Many of his poems are not long, but they make readers pause and think carefully about every line. Sometimes, his poems feel like puzzles because the meaning is not always obvious at first. The poem And If the Heart Cannot Love is also very short. When we first read it, it may even feel a little confusing because the sentences are short and there is very little punctuation. However, once we slow down and think about the images and ideas in the poem, we begin to see the powerful message behind it. Even though the poem is short, it talks about something very important, the role of love in our lives. So before we try to understand the meaning of the poem, let us first listen to it. And if the heart cannot love, death cannot cure it, nor sleep. No splendor of wound, the heart had no sound. Gloom has escaped it and birthed the miraculous flower. In music and speech, leave it and bewitched. God it cannot spell, nor sun, nor lover. The beautiful word, and it has no sound, nor wound. So as you can see, even the poem uses only a few lines, it leaves us with a strong and emotional idea. So at first glance, the poem might seem difficult to understand. The lines are short and the poet does not use much punctuation like what I've said earlier. But poetry often works this way. Sometimes, poets use simple words and images to express deep thoughts. So instead of rushing through the poem, let us slow down and look at the ideas step by step. So as you can see, the poem begins with a very serious question. What if the heart cannot love? The poet then tells us that if the heart cannot love, even death or sleep cannot cure it. In other words, this simply means that such condition is deeper than physical pain. So to understand this idea better, let us try to imagine a situation. So sometimes we experience so much hurt or disappointment that we slowly begin to close our hearts. Maybe someone we trusted betrayed us, or maybe we felt rejected or deeply hurt by someone we cared about. After experiencing that pain many times, we might try to protect ourselves by not caring too much anymore. We might tell ourselves that it's better not to feel anything at all. So, from the outside, we may still look completely normal. We go to school or work, talk to people, and continue living our daily lives like nothing happened. But inside, our hearts may feel empty. So this is what the poet means when he says that the heart had no sound. So the heart is not literally silent. Instead, it means that the heart no longer expresses deep emotions. So it no longer feels the joy, warmth, or connection that love usually brings. Is that bloom has escaped it. So a bloom or a flower often represents beauty, happiness, and growth. When we see flowers blooming, we often feel peaceful or happy. So think about the last time you saw something beautiful. Maybe it was a colorful sunset,
a quiet beach, or even a simple moment when your friends were laughing together. Normally, those moments makes you feel something warm inside. But according to the poet, if the heart cannot love, even beautiful things lose their power. Let me give another example. Imagine your favorite song. Maybe it reminds you of a happy memory or someone important in your life. When you hear it, it usually makes you smile. Now imagine hearing that same song but feeling absolutely nothing. No excitement, no memories, and basically no happiness at all. That music simply becomes a sound. So that is what the poet basically means when he says that music and speech leave it unbewitched. The heart is no longer touched by the beauty around it. And finally, in the last part of the poem, the poet says that the heart cannot even spell words like God, Son, or Lover. So these words represent some of the most meaningful parts of life. The sun represents warmth and life itself. A lover represents human connection and affection, and God may represent faith, hope, or something greater than ourselves. But when the heart cannot love, these things slowly lose their meaning. We may still see the sun shining, but it does not bring warmth to our emotions. We may still be surrounded by people, but we feel distant from them. The poem ends again by saying that the heart has no sound and no wound. This means that the heart becomes so numb that it cannot even feel pain anymore. It becomes completely disconnected from life. So for me, this poem serves as a reminder of how important love really is. Love is not all about romantic relationships. It could also be about love for family and friendship. And it could even be about kindness, compassion, and even appreciation for the small things in our lives. When we allow ourselves to care about people, our heart stays alive. We feel joy, excitement, and even sadness. But those emotions reminds us that we are truly living. But when we close our hearts completely, life can begin to feel empty and distant. This poem gently reminds us that love is what gives our lives its meaning. So even though this poem is very short, its message is still very powerful. A heart that cannot love becomes silent and empty. And perhaps the poet wants to remind us that as long as we can still love, our hearts will always remain alive. So that would be all for my part. Thank you very much for listening.